Hi guys, welcome to the Begrudged Book Club podcast. My name is Sarah.
And my name is Rachel.
On this podcast, a guest and I take turns picking out a book and forcing the other person to read it.
Aw, crap. I gotta read this book?
The Begrudged Book Club.
In the last episode, Rachel picked The Living by Matt De La Pena. And this episode, I selected The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. I picked this book because I got into Bridgerton on Netflix over the summer and I had to read the books. And Rachel, kind of same story there. We are going to break down the plot with commentary, and stay tuned. Near the end of the episode, we are going to point out the differences between the book and the show. So let's get into it. The prologue introduces the Bassett family, who hold the title of Great Britain's Dukedom of Hastings. The 9th Duke of Hastings celebrates the birth of a son after years of infertility despite his wife dying in childbirth. And the guy cares more about having the heir to his title than he does about his wife dying. She's laying there, and he's just more excited about having a son than the fact that his wife's slipping away.
Yeah, he was literally like one of the worst characters in the whole book.
Hands
worst
down,
character.
Hands down the worst. The Duke's obsession with family legacy and high expectations results in tragedy for his son, Simon, who has a stutter. And the Duke wanted nothing but perfection from his son. And once Simon developed this stutter during childhood, the Duke just totally rejected him. He's a total jerk, and he literally disowned him to the point where he claimed his son was dead. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
Simon, proud and self-reliant, decides to reject all that his father stands for.
We love him for this. He was like, no, I don't have to listen to you, Dad. And he was like, I'm going to go live my own life. And we love him for that.
And good for him.
Yeah.
The novel's main action opens with Daphne Bridgerton, a young woman and one of 8 children from a prominent London family. Daphne faces another social season and her domineering mother, Lady Violet Bridgerton, like the real queen of Bridgerton, the matriarch.
I mean, like, she's a single mom with 8 kids, and 4 of them are boys, and what a boss. Like, I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Lady Violet Bridgerton has great hopes for whom Daphne might secure a husband. Daphne is intrigued by the news in Lady Whistledown's society papers, a fashionable anonymous gossip column, like Gossip Girl, that Simon Bassett has returned from abroad to claim his title as the 10th Duke of Hastings. Daphne is a devoted daughter who hopes to find a husband worthy of her affections and intellect. Simon is a friend of her brother Anthony, but her mother discourages their meeting because Simon has a scandalous reputation with women. Simon, now in his late 20s, is determined never to marry, as marriage and children would mean accepting his father's vision for him. He hated his father so much, he did not want to give his father's line a chance to, like, live on. He just wanted it to end with him.
Yeah, he wanted the name to die with him.
Daphne and Simon met at a ball that Simon reluctantly attends, and soon he rescues her from a drunken suitor, although Daphne's already got that stuff covered. Like, she punches him in the face when he's coming at her.
And, like, I wish that Lord Burbrook is the name of the drunk guy, and, like, I just wish you had taken the hint. Like, obviously she doesn't like you, bro. Like, come on.
Some guys don't, and it's really ick.
Like, she had to punch him to get him to stop. Like, that's a red flag.
So bad. The two match wits and are immediately intrigued by each other. As they dance, Simon learns that Daphne wants marriage and children, but has struggled to find a man that she can relate to. Daphne is mystified by Simon's insistence that he will never marry, because that just wasn't common back then. I mean, he had money, he was a young man, like, women were throwing themselves at his feet. So Simon proposes that they pretend to be in love to make Daphne a more compelling marriage prospect, and ensure that he can spend time with someone who understands his refusal to wed. Anthony Bridgerton reluctantly agrees to their plan. Okay, so this is a huge difference. They told Anthony their plan, and they did not tell him in the show. So
it wouldn't be as dramatic if they told him in the show.
Guess so they wanted to like do like a big climax like in the middle of the show, like where it's like Anthony finds out. And Daphne falls in love with Simon as they spend more time together. Simon becomes increasingly conflicted as he knows their desires are incompatible. After an evening of emotional upheaval, he kisses her. However, Daphne's brother discovers them alone together, and the evening ends in disaster with Daphne's honor at stake.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, like in the early 19th century, if you got caught kissing someone, you had two choices. One, you either married them, or two, you die in a duel. Because the family member's pissed and they probably will shoot you first.
Yeah.
You probably don't have a chance.
Yeah. No chance at all. It's like Hamilton all over again.
Yes. Daphne is stunned and hurt when Simon refuses to marry her and preserve her honor, announcing his intentions to just die in a duel with her brother Anthony instead.
R.I.P.
Daphne persuades her brother Colin to find out where the duel will be held, hoping to save Simon's life. Daphne knows the scandal will ruin her reputation and persuades Simon that they must marry. Simon tells her he is unable to have children, and she accepts this, believing her love for him is enough. Now, before the wedding, Daphne received very vague instruction on reproduction from her mother. Vague is an understatement, and it's so cringe.
Like, honestly, if the mom had said nothing, it would have been just the same amount of conversation.
Right.
Like,
that was the amount of information.
There was no content. It was just like,
it was just
it
cringe.
happens,
She
and that
walked
was it.
in, it was cringe, and then she left. Like, Violet was like so scared she was almost crying.
She was like embarrassed, and Daphne was like, "What the heck? Like, I need to know this stuff."
Simon and Daphne retire to his ancestral home for their honeymoon, where they enjoy passionate bliss marred only by Simon's reluctance to discuss his childhood. Eventually, Daphne realizes that Simon lied to her. He has been practicing contraception and is not infertile. What? So basically, his form of contraception. Did they have condoms back then? I don't even know.
I don't know.
You know, his contraception was, as we know today, pulling out,
and that's not reliable. So like,
no, it's not even
that was
reliable.
a risk from the beginning. So
yeah. And poor Daphne was like so clueless. She Violet gave her no information that she didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah,
when he was pulling out.
Yeah,
like
red flag.
Poor girl. She also learns of his childhood trauma at the hands of his father. Daphne tries to convince Simon to have a family with her, but he refuses to consider it and becomes even more furious when she refuses to share a bed with him. When he returns home drunk one night, Daphne attempts to conceive a child with Simon without his consent, and his stutter starts again. That's like how upset he is after she like traps him into a full-blown
and I mean, I don't want to say that she like R-worded him, but like
low-key.
That's what it felt like, because there was not consent there.
Yeah.
And he was pretty mad.
Yeah. In outrage and betrayal, Simon leaves Daphne, telling her to contact him only if she does conceive a child. Daphne returns to London, facing yet another scandal due to Simon's absence, but she summons him when she suspects that she is pregnant. And at this time, she is not pregnant. I think just like the hopes of wanting to be pregnant, she might have like missed a period, and the stress of maybe
and the
Simon
stress of her
being
husband
gone.
being gone. Yeah.
So she's not pregnant.
And her overbearing brothers.
Yes. But when she does find out she's not pregnant, I think that the excitement of them possibly conceiving might have brought them together and maybe woke him up to like realizing he might actually want a family.
The possibility.
Because it was exciting to him, but also he was conflicted because of the promise he made that he was never going to give his father an heir.
Yeah.
The couple reconciles, and Simon realizes he has allowed his past trauma and fear to dictate his life and his marriage. In the novel's epilogue, Simon and Daphne celebrate the birth of their 4th child. That's a lot of kids already.
I mean, they're
there's even
halfway.
more,
They're
right?
halfway to Violet. I mean,
Yeah.
they're halfway there.
An heir to the dukedom named David. So it worked out between these two,
Mhm.
and I'm glad that Simon was able to admit to himself that he was putting the revenge he wanted for his father before his own happiness. And he kind of healed his heart, and Daphne helped him to realize that he did want to start like a real family.
Yeah. And something I did want to mention is that in some editions of the book, Julia Quinn, the author, included a second epilogue. And she said it was because readers wanted more of like Simon and Daphne's story. So what happens in that epilogue is that Daphne's brother Colin and his wife, I won't be naming any names, so there's no spoilers. But they visit Daphne and Simon because their child, who's 4 years old and he has not spoken yet, which was just like Simon. So before the other Bridgerton family arrived, Daphne found out she was pregnant again, and she was 40 years old. So like, wow.
That's a
little scary.
Geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah, a little scary. But in the end, Simon does like give them advice on what to do with their child, and the Bassett family just grows a little bigger.
Okay, so we are going to talk about a couple differences we noticed between the book and the show.
So I've only seen season 1 of the show, and there was a lot of differences. So the first one we notice is that like in the show, there's a lot about Queen Charlotte, and she's hosting all these balls, and she's naming the diamond of this season, and she's really like into this Lady Whistledown, and she gets Eloise to find her. But in the book, like the queen is never mentioned. Like I think maybe once she was mentioned, and that was it. And Lady Danbury, she also is only mentioned when the balls are thrown at her house. Like she didn't raise Simon. She's not like a prominent character. In the book, Anthony is clued in to the plan that Daphne and Simon have. But in the show, he's completely clueless and gets mad at Simon, and it causes all sorts of drama. So I feel like the whole show kind of, especially season 1, revolved around Lady Whistledown and her gossip columns. And in the book, we get maybe like 1 or 2 sentences at the start of every chapter. So she's not
even
as
a full pamphlet. There's always like a huge like pamphlet of like a full article in the show.
And in the book, it's like 3 sentences and a ... And finally, the last thing I noticed in the book is that Eloise is like hardly mentioned at all. But in the movie, it's like Eloise this and Eloise that, and she's jealous of Daphne and like all this stuff. And she just was there only a couple times when the family was doing stuff together.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing too was there was this really cool like boat scene where they invited Simon to like come with the family on like a trip to like some art gallery or something, right?
Yeah.
And that was really cute, and it just kind of showed. I mean, he craves that family togetherness. He like never had that before, and it was just kind of sweet to see how like the Bridgertons accepted him so well, and he saw the little siblings,
and he got to kind of be like a big brother. Yeah,
it was really cute. So our final thoughts, I love period dramas and romance novels, and this book definitely delivered. It made my heart so happy. It was long. It was a long book, but it was mostly dialogue, which flowed like a stream of consciousness, which always reads fast. So I give this book 5 stars, and I want to read the entire series.
So I have never actually read a period drama before, believe it or not. So I was definitely looking up a lot of words. Like, thank goodness I was reading it on my Kindle, and I could like highlight it, and it would tell me what the word meant. But overall, I thought it had a good flow, and the author provided enough backstory and description to make the book like super easy to read. I would definitely give it 5 out of 5 stars. Like, it was really good.
Okay, and do you want to announce the next book?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so my husband wanted to participate in the Begrudged Book Club episode. So he actually picked the next book, and it is a biography, which is something different than has been read on this podcast before. But it is about the life of Robert Parsons. So he's a veteran and an entrepreneur, and the book is called Fire in the Hole. And I'm really excited to start reading it.
I'm excited to read that too. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.